After breaking down the expectations and limitations placed on women, it's time to shift the focus. Part 3 is about freedom. What happened after we walked away, how we rebuilt, and why leaving didn't break us. It made us stronger. Let's move into the final chapter of this conversation.
Let's kind of shift our discussion a little bit and talk about, since we've all left this religion, if you were to go back, you probably would not recognize it. You want to kind of talk about what you think about the changes, the recent changes in the last couple of years, what that looks like to you. What were you thinking about when you heard about these different changes?
Well, it felt unfair. I'm like, why did I have to report field service time for all those years? Like now pioneering and putting in 90 hours and then 70 hours a month seems ridiculous. Because everything they're just shrinking everything. And then the sisters can wear pants and the men can wear beards after my husband struggled, with, his skin because they're always trying to make you shave. Like, it feels unfair. And it just I think the witnesses wanted to do that to bring people back in, but I think it has the opposite effect because now we know this was never about God. Mm-hmm. This was always just about these men and their rules.
I agree. I always wonder when this new light is rolling out, like I would love to know how many people, when that one thing was announced, just said, okay, I can't do it anymore. It is, I do, like I say, I feel my heart breaks most for the people who were born and raised in, who are now struggling because they had to turn down college opportunities, right? Or maybe, internships or just whatever, anything that they knew that the friends and the elders would not look favorably upon. And so now they are my age, and it's like, it's not that they can't go back, but they 50. It's going to be a lot different compared to when they might have been, 20 years old with the opportunity. So, yeah, again, I guess my word for this panel is disgusting. It's disgusting. It's disgusting the way they have such a hold on people's lives, and a lot of times it seems like the damage is very, very hard to reverse for a lot of people.
Yeah, how about you, Rashana?
No, I agree. The college one is the one that really upset me the most. I remember, well, I don't know if you remember when I called you, I was mad. And then I went from mad to I was just crying because I thought about how hard we worked and how everyone was just they gave their life to Satan. I mean, that literally was the response all the time. Like, you have to pick which God you want to serve. It's either Satan or Jehovah. And even when we mentioned that we were going to college, the people that slowly backed away from us, now it's okay. Are you kidding me? So yeah, I was really, really upset about that because we supported ourselves, of course, but we didn't have any support outside of that. And because I grew up in the religion, everyone I knew was in the organization. So it's literally building a whole new life around people. And support did definitely come through the years, especially as closer we got to graduation, but it felt lonely. It did. It felt lonely sometimes because college is not easy. The work and you know what I'm talking, even getting your master's. I had no idea there was a sister in our congregation that was secretly getting her master's. Like, if I could talk to her now, I would give her a hug and be like, I cannot believe you did that and went to the meetings, because we stopped going to the meetings when we went to college, but she was doing that secretly, getting her master's. And still, because the homework load, the homework load is a meeting in itself. So to think of that, and now she had to hide that, but now it's okay. It's and still they have their way of wording it, to still make people feel kind of guilty about doing it. But now it's open now. I mean, that is just,
Can I ask a question?
Terrible.
yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. So since we're talking about that particular new light, what do you all think is the real intention from the governing body to make that change?
Money.
Yeah. Money.
You mean about going to college?
Yeah, how they now are, kind of
Um,
basically saying it's okay to go to college. Like, why now? Like,
Well, you
why
got to
now?
keep in mind what you got to do is you got to keep in mind that everything that they're doing, it has other countries are bringing situations to the table in their country. I want to say, was it Japan? One of those countries had a situation going on where they were trying to accuse the government. I think it was the Moonies. I think JT did a video about that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
how when another country decides that they want to start looking at some religion for holding their members back, then if the society believes, because the Watchtower Society, we used to call it the society, but they call it something else now. But when the Watchtower says, once people start shining a mirror on our teachings and what we're doing to people, we're going to change. They did the same thing with the alternative service, the blood issue, because when they start letting you have blood fractions for whatever reason, all of that has to do with the teachings. Somebody's shining the mirror in their face. So now they gotta like kind of step down, step back to make sure that they're in compliance, because once a country begins to pull back and no longer wants to give them, religious rights in their country, it's going to be a domino effect. So whenever it's always about them, not about you as the individual. It's about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you think about all the things that they're doing to where, make changes and kind of soften their teachings, how do you feel about that? In the year 2025, Maya, you said it's not fair because it's easy now. It's easier to be a Jehovah's Witness now than it was when we were coming along. Do you think that if they had made all these changes before you left, that you probably could have stayed longer? How do you feel about that?
Not me, because I left because I read the Bible, and I realized that the basic doctrine is false, So it wouldn't be me. I'm just not really religiously inclined. But I think other people might have stayed, might stay, and probably are staying because things are getting easier. I have to say, from a business perspective, right? Because the Watchtower Society is a business. You have to make decisions that are going to keep the money rolling in. And continuing to not let people go to school and, forcing people to have all these small rules. It's not working for them in the digital age. So if they want to stick around, they're going to have to keep going with this.
I wouldn't either. I was always pushing the envelope a lot. So they probably would have kicked me out. But because I just did not get all of the rules sometimes. And I just felt, especially as a woman, the rules were very hard on us. And so I always questioned, and I had certain elders that, I would give them the nickname Popo, because I felt like that is what they did all the time, was police us. And I've said those words to them. So I know I wouldn't have, because they would have been like, we got to kick her out. She's a problem. And because it just didn't seem fair. Some of the things that they had placed upon some of the sisters, we just had no value really. And having a daughter, that makes that very hard, because I don't want her to be, I don't want her to think that way. And so being in the organization, I mean, even though they made those changes, they still haven't made the changes for the sisters. They still, they're wearing pants, yeehaw. You still don't treat them fairly. And especially if it's a sister that doesn't have a mate, it gets out of control then, because then they think that they are that mate and they get to be dominant and tell them what to do. So it's not a organization that is fair at all to sisters, to women. And if you are one and you care about yourself, then it's very hard to tolerate that.
Yeah. All right, now T, bring it on home for us, because you had brought that question up about why do you think they make the changes? How do you feel about that? Do you think that if you were going to that they're making all these changes, that you're going to try to stick around a little bit longer?
Absolutely not. Being able to wear pants to the meeting or out in service, like that's not a huge game changer. I'm not a man, so I didn't have to worry about shaving. Clearly, I did not follow the encouragement to, stay away from higher education because I was a whole teacher, and at 38 said I'm going back to nursing school, despite not getting any support, from, well, I'll take that back, despite not getting support from the congregation per se, but two to three of my friends, yes. I do believe, like what was said, is probably softening the blows, the rules, the routine for some people, making it easier to probably be, physically in, mentally out, so they can stay connected to, so-called friends and family. But yeah, for me, to be honest, I think like if those changes had happened around the time that my dad passed, when I already was like, this don't smell right, I can't keep suppressing these thoughts. Yeah, I would have probably left then, and I was 36.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, what do y'all think about it now? So, like, we're out. We talked about the Watchtower. We mentioned a few things about this religion that we don't really care for. Women, especially, are not treated well. But how are you thriving after leaving? How do you feel about your day-to-day life? I know you talked a little bit about it, but you want to kind of talk about it to the audience to help other people see that it's really fun leaving? Or, I mean, people think, first of all, let me say this. When a person leaves this religion and something bad happens to that person, the first thing people say, they should have stayed in Jehovah's organization. See, if they wouldn't have went out there with them worldly folks, they may be still up in here, not going through this right now. They may not be, serving a prison term. I mean, you got to remember that there's going to be things that's going to happen to people regardless of where they are. But they always go to the extreme. Somebody was on drugs, a man went to jail to prison. These are the kind of things that they're trying to say about, former Jehovah's Witnesses. But how can you speak to the audience to show that those are nothing but lies?
Well, for me, it's great. Like I said earlier in our discussion, not having the anxiety, not constantly thinking about Jehovah's watching, the friends are watching, stumbling somebody. I can be as ambitious as I want without looking like Satan's little sister, So you get to live life on your own terms. And I enjoy that. I'm so grateful that I didn't let people in the congregation who tried very hard to discourage me from marrying my husband, in comparison to who they were offering up as a mate, because I would have been extremely unhappy from A to Z. So it just feels good to be back to myself, being able to enjoy my family. I was the only one who came in. So being able to go back to spend time with them and just be regular, not having to do things around the meetings, not having to go to my grandma's house the day after Thanksgiving, stuff like that. So just being able to be regular, be ambitious, enjoy my family, friends, and live life on my own terms without feeling controlled or watched.
I would say that I would want to be very honest. I think the longer that you're in the organization, the harder that it is when you leave. So I think a lot of people experience a time period of anxiety, depression, right? Because there's fears. Yes, I'm going to speak as someone who grew up in this. You have these fears that have been programmed into you that if I leave, bad things are going to happen. So you have to stay out for long enough to see that your life can go on and be just fine. Even if something bad does happen, you can recover and still be successful. And then there's also the real possibility of feeling isolated. I especially feel for people whose entire family, maybe they're multi-generational witnesses and they have no one. So they may leave and feel isolated and they have to start over again and find new relationships. But I can say for myself, after about 5 years, I started to feel very much secure in myself as a person. I feel like I know who I am now. I feel like I have real friends. It took a while to build friendships, but it's people that I know aren't going to disappear on me just because I don't show up at the same place every Monday and Sunday with them. These are real people who care about me and who like me for my good parts and all my flaws. And I feel like I've been able to start a business, and I feel like my relationships with my kids are better. I've been able to reconnect with family members that I haven't seen in many years, and I've gotten close to them. So I think it's worth the effort. It might be scary in the beginning, but if you just hang in there, life really is good right now. We don't have to wait to the paradise.
Everything she said. Honestly, everything she said. I remember having this conversation with my sister. This was early when we were leaving. And I'm like, were you ever afraid of thunderstorms? And she's like, yes. And that was like a conversation we never had, which is kind of weird, but we never had that conversation about how we felt about thunderstorms. I hated thunderstorms growing up because I always thought that was going to be Armageddon. And I always had to think, am I ready? And it's like to think that when you're little and then go through years of thinking that. And now I say, Alexa, put on thunderstorms when I go to sleep at night. And that literally is what I fall asleep to now. So I know the transition of not having that fear, and then like not putting that fear onto your kids either, because that is just horrible. And to feel that you're not good enough to survive this Armageddon and that something is going to happen to you. So because of that, I feel like I live life a lot more fearlessly. Things that I think, like, and not like I haven't jumped out of a plane or anything, but the fact is like there's different things that I am not afraid to try, or I'm not afraid to say, because, in the organization to say certain things, you had to be kind of fearful because like, how would that be interpreted? What would this elder say? Would you be called in the back of a elder's room for, I don't care now. I will be like, hey, I don't think this makes any sense. Or can you explain why we have to do this? Like, is there any evidence or proof? All those things now I can like have those conversations with freedom and just feel comfortable, relaxed. Like I said, depression, I went through that. I'm not, because I don't worry about the things that I used to worry about. Connection with my family, my husband, we ain't snitching on each other. I mean, we never did, but the organization pushes for snitching. And when he was waking up, I never told, like, even the things he would ask me, because we had that relationship. But now it is more strong because we don't have to worry about telling no elders about such and such. We just take care of ourselves. Same thing with our kids. Like, if my kids choose to do this or do that, or who they want to be, I'm not snitching on them. I'm not telling on them, because they can make those decisions. So it's just like a whole new world. Friends that got your back. I mean, I could call up a girlfriend right now and be like, and they'd be like, where's she at? What you want? And I didn't have that in the organization. Well, did you talk to the elders about? So like, life is good and it's real. It's real.
You got any closing comments that y'all want to share with the audience? Good point.
I know you had mentioned I forgot before we got on this subject. Was it like you wanted us to kind of like some last points or something? I can't remember what the question was.
Whatever you want to say to like that you didn't get a chance to say yet.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. One thing I would say is, from my personal experience, if you're someone watching this video, whether you're studying or you're in, and you have all these doubts and questions, you're not crazy, and it's okay to research. You know, if you need to, put some space between you and the meetings, if that means not answering the phone, just so that you can begin to have a clear mind as to the reason those doubts and questions keep coming up and the answers that they're giving you are not satisfying. And that's because it's not the truth. So that's what I would say. Honor your doubts, honor your questions, and know that you're not crazy, even though there will be ones who will try to make you think that you are.
Yeah, like don't second guess yourself, because I know when we first left the religion, I used to think, and this didn't happen that often, but I would say, did we make a mistake? Should we stay? Should we have stayed? And you're going to be thinking that as you walk out the door, because there's so many things that this religion does that make sense to us because we were in it for so long. And so when you begin to leave, you're just starting to, like, what do you call it? You're deprogramming. And so there's going to be some remnants of what's going on, right? With their teaching that sounds kind of okay. But as you begin to decompress, get out this religion, and as I say, thaw your mind out, whatever. You're gonna have some leftover remnants of Watchtower teachings. You're gonna have some remnants of, maybe I should have stayed there because these people are whatever they say they are, and we already done broke that down that they're really not. But at some point, you're gonna get tugged back and forth to feeling like, oh, maybe that was a better deal than this deal over here, So you're gonna get all that stuff going on, So anybody else? Maya, you want to make some final comments?
I think it's along the same lines as T. I think when you're having doubts in the organization, or even maybe you're not having doubts, but it's really important to tune into your feelings, your emotions. I think that's why I stayed in for so long, was because I kept ignoring how I really feel. I go to these meetings, they make me feel exhausted. I don't want to see the people. I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling anxious. Don't ignore those feelings. They mean something. It means that something needs to change. And I'm always going to advise people to seek professional help, counseling, therapy, especially if you've been in the organization for a long time, because leaving is not going to be easy. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of insecurity, and you're going to need support to get through that.
Rashana?
That fear, I think, was the thing that made me worry, because fear, am I doing the right thing if I leave? Fear, is Armageddon really real? Fear, how will my family treat me afterwards? Like, I know that the fear was constantly there, because honestly, that's how they keep the witnesses in the first place. If they weren't afraid of the consequences that aren't even real, a lot of people would be gone. But it's that fear that they hold over you. There's always a consequence for if you decide to do something. And so I say, once you move past that and you start to realize that those were all just, like, it was made up. They're all, once you get a hold of the Elders book too, you really start to see all of that was really made up. It's just something they came up with, has really no effect in your real life. Because once you start to leave, my supervisor does not go off of that Elders book. That's not how we roll it. Once you're in your family, and you have things that you do in your family, you're not basing it off of what the organization is anymore. And so all those fears start to, like, go away. Really, they really do. but it takes time. It takes time, but you can get through that fear. It takes time, but you can get through it. And once you do, it is so worth it. It's so worth to realize that it was actually kind of made up. So
Yeah. Now,
Can I add one last thing?
huh?
Can I add one last thing?
Sure, absolutely.
Just thinking about what the ladies just said, know that it is okay to create a new normal, because that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be creating a new normal, and it is going to feel weird. There's going to be a lot of gaps, especially if you weren't allowed to kind of explore and discover what you like, what you don't like, who you are, who you're not, what are your core beliefs. So embrace the journey of creating the new normal for yourself.
That's a good point.
Look at
Excellent point.
Look at it from a glass half full versus half empty perspective. Like, embrace all the ups and downs that come with, that new normal.
Excellent idea. Now, I always try to connect people online. So my panelists today, several of them have their own websites, their own YouTube channels and other connections. So if, someone may have resonated with something that you said during this discussion, you guys want to kind of let them know how they can reach you. And I'll also put your connections in the description.
So I do have a YouTube channel. It is called Same Old T. That's OOLETTEE, where I discuss, obviously, EXJW content, as well as health and wellness, Gen X. So not just strictly Jehovah Witness related, but basically a reflection of who I am. I'm more than just my EXJW experience. So that is a good place. And then also I do have a Instagram, but so you can find it on the channel.
So I am a psychotherapist. I have a practice. I'm licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania currently. I'm called Repose Counseling. You can find my contact information on my website, REPOSE counseling, the number 4, the letter U.com. I also have Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn. You can reach out to me there.
So I don't have anything EXJW, but if you love reading, and also I teach kindergarten and I post a lot of stuff that we do, and it's my journey of when I started college to now to teaching, then you can follow Mrs. Greer's teaching journey on Instagram, and you can see all the fun things we do and all the books that I love to read that the organization would not approve of.
I love it. So ladies, it has been such a wonderful opportunity to get with you guys to talk about, what we've been through in this organization as Jehovah's Witnesses. And I want to thank you all for, being on the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. This final part brings everything full circle: the awakening, the pressure, and the freedom we had to fight for. If you're starting here, make sure you go back to parts 1 and 2. You'll hear the stories behind these women and the rules that tried to control them. Every episode connects, and each one reveals a different piece of the truth. Thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting conversations that help us heal and move forward.